Have you ever felt your mind completely dominated by a single thought, a person, or a goal, to the point where nothing else matters? It's as if the world around you disappears, and you become a predator, focused and hypnotized by your prey, with an intensity that borders on hypnotism. This is a powerful and at times frightening facet of human emotion, leading us to a state of such intense concentration that it can be both a source of great achievement and innovation, as well as profound suffering and self-destruction. And the animal kingdom in its instinctive and wild wisdom with its mechanisms of survival and hunting can help us understand this primordial intensity, revealing surprising parallels between our most primitive impulses and the labyrinthine complexities of the human mind. Prepare for a journey that will make you see yourself and the natural world in a new and revealing light. Obsession, or an inflexible fixation, transcends mere interest or ardent passion. It is a state of mind where a thought, an image, a desire, an impulse, or even a fear becomes persistent, intrusive, and overwhelming, dominating consciousness and eclipsing all other life priorities. Imagine yourself in a vast room where only a single object is illuminated by a blinding spotlight, while everything else is plunged into the densest, most impenetrable darkness. This is how an obsessed person feels. Their mental and emotional energy is exhaustively drained by that single point of focus, almost like a gravitational black hole that absorbs all light, time, and vitality around it. This invisible web of obsession can cling to various and unexpected aspects of human existence. It can be something as seemingly harmless as an obsession, with a new hobby that suddenly consumes all waking hours and even dreams, leading the person to neglect work, studies, physical and mental health, and even important relationships that were once pillars of their life. Or the fixation on an idealized body image, driving the person to plunge into extreme diets, exhaustive exercise routines, and risky cosmetic procedures where every calorie becomes an enemy to be fought and every mirror an unforgiving judge of their own inadequacy. There is also the obsession with control, manifested in repetitive and compulsive rituals, in the need to micromanage every detail of their own and others' lives, or in the relentless pursuit of perfection in all spheres where the slightest mistake is perceived as an unacceptable threat to their very identity and worth. In the realm of interpersonal relationships, obsession manifests even more dramatically, painfully, and at times destructively. The person can become obsessively in love, with thoughts incessantly revolving around the beloved, their words, their actions, and even their absences. Every text message is dissected in search of hidden meanings, every silence interpreted as a sign of disinterest, every encounter planned with almost military meticulousness. Friends and family may be pushed away, careers relegated to the background, and one's very identity may be stifled by the relentless pursuit of the other's approval, presence, or exclusive possession. Life becomes a narrow, dark tunnel, and peripheral vision completely disappears, making the person unable to notice the nuances of the environment, the needs of those around them, or the warning signs indicating that something is fundamentally wrong and unsustainable. This state consumes vital energy overwhelmingly, draining emotional, cognitive, and physical resources to exhaustion, often leading to irrational, impulsive, and even self-destructive behaviors in pursuit of the object of fixation. The person may become socially isolated, completely lose their sense of proportion and reality, and even justify attitudes that in other contexts would be unthinkable or morally questionable, all in the name of that single overwhelming goal. It is as if the mind is caught in an invisible yet unbreakable web, where every movement, instead of liberating, further deepens the fixation, making escape increasingly difficult, painful, and at times seemingly impossible. Obsession is not just a focus. It is an imprisonment of the soul and mind. In the animal kingdom, few creatures embody inflexible fixation with the intensity, patience, and precision of the praying mantis. This almost alien-looking insect, with its slender body and calculated movements, is an exquisite and patient predator, a true master of ambush and camouflage. Its iconic posture, with its forelegs bent in a pose resembling prayer, hence its common name, is the perfect translation of its hunting mindset. Almost absolute immobility and unwavering focus, a stillness that conceals a lethal intention. Praying mantises can remain absolutely still for hours, sometimes even days, perfectly mimicking the foliage around them. Their colors and shapes blend impressively with the environment, be it leaves, branches, flowers, or even stones, making them virtually invisible to unsuspecting prey and potential predators. This immobility, however, is not passivity, laziness, or inertia. It is a strategy of maximum concentration, a state of latent and calculated alertness. Their large, prominent compound eyes are true marvels of evolution, with over 10,000 lenses in each, designed to detect the slightest movement within an almost 360-degree angle. They possess binocular vision that allows them to assess the distance to their prey with millimeter-perfect, three-dimensional precision, essential for the success of their swift and accurate strike. Once the praying mantis spots its prey, be it a hopping cricket, an incessantly buzzing fly, or even, in surprising and well-documented cases, small birds, lizards, amphibians, or rodents, it enters a kind of hypnotic trance. Its body slowly, almost imperceptibly, orientates itself toward the target, like a biological radar adjusting with precision. Every muscle seems to be in a state of maximum readiness, silently and tremulously accumulating energy for the decisive moment. There are no distractions, no hesitation, no deviation from the primary goal. It becomes the very embodiment of extreme patience and lethal concentration, a being that exists solely for that instant of capture. The attack scene is a spectacle of speed and brutality that defies human perception. In milliseconds, some species can launch their raptorial legs in just 50 milliseconds faster than the blink of an eye. The forelegs, equipped with sharp spines and astonishing strength, spring like compressed coils, capturing the victim with surgical and implacable precision. Once the praying mantis strikes, it rarely misses, and the prey has little chance of escaping its deadly embrace. This absolute precision is the direct result of its hypnotic fixation and its innate ability to wait for the exact moment, without being influenced by any other external or internal stimulus. The praying mantis's life is predominantly solitary. It hunts alone, and its habitat, usually trees, shrubs, fields, gardens, and even urban areas, becomes the stage for its tireless and silent hunt. Its social dynamics are minimal and reproduction-focused, except for the mating ritual, which can also be marked by a peculiar and, for the male, fatal fixation. The female sometimes devours the male during or after copulation, an extreme act that serves to nourish the eggs, ensuring the continuation of the species and the survival of the offspring. The praying mantis's existence is in essence an ode to unwavering concentration, patience pushed to the absolute limit, and the impeccable execution of a single primordial desire: to capture and consume to survive. The similarity between the praying mantis and the human mind in a state of obsession is strikingly clear and profoundly revealing, acting as a biological mirror that reflects our most intense behaviors and, at times, our most complex dilemmas. Just as the insect remains immobile, almost fused with its environment, with a hypnotic and unwavering focus on its prey, the obsessed human also becomes psychically and emotionally immobilized. They become blind to everything except the object of their fixation, be it a person, a goal, an idea, a habit, or even an abstract ideal. The world around them diminishes in importance. Colors fade, sounds become muffled, and life is reduced to that single, overwhelming point of desire, concern, or yearning. Imagine the person who is obsessed with an ideal of professional or academic success. Their thoughts incessantly revolve around that coveted promotion, that challenging project, that public recognition, or the perfect grade on a decisive exam. They may neglect friends, family, hobbies, health, and even other areas of their life that they once considered essential pillars. Because their prey, the dream career, the top hierarchy, or academic excellence, is all that matters, the only thing that seems to give meaning to their existence. Just as the praying mantis calculates the perfect movement and the exact moment for the attack, the obsessed human devises meticulous plans, complex strategies, and at times acts irrationally, unethically, or even self-destructively solely to approach or secure the object of their fixation. There is accumulated energy, constant tension, a latent anxiety that will only be released, or so they hope, at the moment of capture or the realization of this desire. This analogy crucially extends to the loss of peripheral vision. The praying mantis, intensely focused on its victim, may not perceive the predator approaching from behind or the danger lurking on its sides. It is so engrossed in its target that it becomes vulnerable to other threats outside its restricted field of vision. Similarly, the obsessed person loses the ability to perceive the inherent risks of their fixation, the warning signs of impending physical and mental exhaustion, the irreparable damage to their closest relationships, or even enriching opportunities that arise in other directions of life but are ignored due to exclusive focus. Their tunnel vision prevents them from seeing the long-term consequences of their actions or the devastating impact on other areas of their existence, sometimes leading them to a dead end, profound isolation, or collapse. Fixation, whether on a material goal, an abstract idea, a specific person, or even a destructive habit, becomes a lens that completely distorts reality. Everything else transforms into a mere blur in the background, irrelevant noise that deserves no attention or consideration. And the lethal precision of the praying mantis, delivering its final blow to capture its prey, finds a dark parallel in the relentless, and at times destructive, pursuit of human obsession, which can lead to an equally implacable outcome, consuming oneself and, at times, those around them. The obsessive mind, like the praying mantis, is a force of nature focused on a single point. But at the cost of such concentration, it can lose the ability to survive, thrive, and find balance in the broader and more complex landscape of life. Neuroscience and psychology offer a fascinating and increasingly in-depth look at the cerebral and mental mechanisms that allow us, much like the praying mantis's hunting instincts, to enter such intense and, at times, maladaptive states of fixation. In neurological terms, obsession can be intrinsically linked to imbalances in the functioning of key neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which regulate our mood, motivation, thought patterns, and behavior. Dopamine, often called the neurotransmitter of reward, pleasure, and motivation, plays a central role in the impulse to seek, in habit formation, and in the feeling of anticipation. When we fixate on something, be it the prospect of financial gain, the realization of a relationship, the overcoming of a complex challenge, or the attainment of social validation, the anticipation of reward triggers the release of dopamine in the brain's as reward system, particularly in the nucleus accumbens and prefrontal cortex. This creates a seek and gratify cycle that can become addictive and compulsive. It's as if the brain is constantly stimulated by the expectation of what's to come, reinforcing the obsessive behavior and making it extremely difficult to break the cycle. Consider the praying mantis. The sight of prey activates its biological seek and reward system, releasing the dopamine of its predatory instinct, propelling it to the final strike and the consequent satisfaction of a successful hunt. Serotonin, in turn, is associated with the regulation of mood, anxiety, sleep, appetite, and compulsion. Altered levels of this neurotransmitter, whether due to genetic, environmental, or stress factors, can contribute to repetitive thoughts, incessant rumination, and compulsive behaviors, which are fundamental characteristics of obsession. In some psychological conditions, such as obsessive-compulsive disorder, a dysfunction in serotonin regulation is observed, which corroborates its importance in controlling intrusive thoughts and repetitive actions. In terms of brain circuitry, certain neural networks, such as the reward circuit involving the prefrontal cortex, nucleus accumbens, and amygdala and the limbic system, can be hyperactive or dysregulated in relation to a specific object of obsession, creating a neurological loop that continuously reinforces the fixation and makes it difficult to divert attentional and behavioral focus. From the perspective of evolutionary psychology, the capacity for intense focus and persistence was crucial for the survival and development of the human species. The need to hunt an animal for food, find shelter in a hostile environment, learn complex survival skills, or protect the family from predators and threats demanded unwavering concentration on specific tasks. Persistence and determination, when balanced, are powerful forces that drive innovation, resilience, learning, and individual and collective success. However, when this natural capacity becomes dysregulated or exaggerated due to genetic, environmental, traumatic, or social factors, it transforms into fixation, trapping the mind in rigid, repetitive, and at times, self-destructive thought and behavior patterns. The selective attention theory in cognitive psychology explains how our brain constantly filters information from the environment, prioritizing what it considers most relevant and discarding what seems irrelevant or less important. In an obsessive state, this filtering becomes extreme, almost pathological, excluding almost everything not directly related to the object of fixation. It is a highly efficient mechanism for specific tasks, but dangerous when generalized, as it prevents us from processing important information that could lead us to divert or reevaluate the course of our actions. Just as the praying mantis ignores all vibration sounds and the broader panorama of the environment to focus solely on the fly, the obsessive mind closes itself off from the richness, nuances, dangers, and opportunities of the surrounding world, concentrating only on its particular prey, ignoring the rest of life's ecosystem and the consequences of its limited vision. Obsession can manifest in ways so diverse and intricate that, at times, we don't even realize its extent in our daily lives. It echoes the precision and inflexible focus of the praying mantis in situations that, at first glance, may seem common, but which reveal a deep fixation that traps the mind and body. Small stories in everyday situations can illustrate how this animal behavior pattern is reflected in human experience, transforming passions and ambitions into true prisons. Consider the case of Mariana, a young and talented graphic designer who, after receiving praise for her initial work, became obsessed with achieving absolute perfection in her portfolio. She spent sleepless nights redesigning logos and illustrations repeatedly, moving pixels with manic precision, never satisfied with the final result, no matter how flawless it already seemed to others. Her friends invited her out to socialize and seek new inspirations at exhibitions and events, but she always refused, claiming she needed to optimize one more curve, adjust one more color, or refine one more stroke of her project. Like the praying mantis that meticulously adjusts its position and the angle of its claws before the decisive strike, Mariana reviewed every detail of her work, pursuing an unattainable ideal of perfection that existed only in her exhausted mind. Her fixation prevented her from enjoying social life, seeking inspiration in other areas of art, and, ironically, realizing that her work was already exceptional, but exhaustion blinded her to her own quality. Her prey was illusory perfection, and she became blind to the cost this pursuit had on her physical and mental health, transforming her passion into an unbearable burden. Or imagine Pedro, a highly competent project manager, who developed an almost manic fixation on a new productivity application that promised to optimize all his tasks. He spent endless hours testing new functionalities, customizing interfaces with minimal details, and creating increasingly complex and intricate workflows that, in practice, only added more layers of bureaucracy. Instead of actually producing and delivering results for his team, he got lost in the obsession with the tool itself, spending more time managing the application than performing his actual tasks. He talked incessantly about the app, trying to convince colleagues to adopt it with almost evangelistic persistence, ignoring that the real problem might not be the lack of a tool, but his own difficulty in focusing on what truly mattered for his work and his life. His mind, like the praying mantis that orientates itself to the slightest movement of its victim, was fixated on the optimization of the application, losing perspective on true productivity and the negative impact on his professional performance and relationships. And there is the example of Carla, who became obsessed with maintaining a perfect image on social media after a painful breakup. Every post was meticulously planned to show a happy, successful, and adventurous life, desperately seeking validation from her ex-partner and her thousands of followers. She spent hours on photo editing apps, choosing the perfect filter, the ideal angle, creating a parallel reality that dangerously distanced her from her own. Like the praying mantis, she was in a constant wait, monitoring every like and comment, awaiting the attack of approval that never filled the inner void. Her friends and family tried to warn her about the disconnect from reality and the superficiality of her pursuit. But her obsession with the image was so strong that she couldn't listen, trapped in her own web of illusions and the need for external validation. These examples, though varied in their contexts and consequences, poignantly demonstrate how the instinct for focus and persistence, when taken to the extreme and unbalanced, can transform into a fixation that consumes vital energy, drastically limits one's worldview, and ultimately prevents personal growth, genuine connection, and full happiness. These are mini-stories that reveal human fragility in the face of such a powerful instinct, and the urgent need for self-awareness and balance for a richer and more meaningful life. By observing the relentless nature and extreme concentration of the praying mantis, and by drawing such clear and compelling parallels with human obsession, we are invited to a profound and necessary reflection on our own mind, our impulses, and our behavioral patterns. The most immediate lesson that nature offers us is the overwhelming power of focus. The praying mantis teaches us that concentration on a single goal can be incredibly effective in achieving results, ensuring its survival and success as a predator in a competitive and challenging environment. It fulfills its biological function with unquestionable mastery, without deviations. However, this same creature also warns us, silently but powerfully, about the dangers inherent in the total absence of peripheral vision. The human being, when becoming excessively fixated on a single point, on a single idea, or on a single person, loses the ability to perceive the world in its multifaceted totality. They become blind to unexpected opportunities that arise in their path, to dangers that subtly approach, and, crucially, to the impact of their actions on themselves, on their closest relationships, and on others around them. Obsession can blind us to the beauty of the journey, fixating us solely on the mirage of a destination, often idealized, unattainable, and, in the end, unsatisfying. We can and should learn to channel our focus productively, strategically, and above all, healthily and balanced, like the praying mantis that directs its energy for the survival of its species, but without allowing that focus to become a prison that isolates us and prevents us from thriving in all dimensions of life. Self-awareness emerges here as the fundamental key to liberation. By recognizing the signs of excessive fixation, the loss of interest in other activities that were once pleasurable, the constant rumination of thoughts that consume vital energy, the exacerbated irritability or anxiety when the object of obsession is threatened or unattainable. Social isolation. Neglect of basic needs. We can intervene before fixation completely consumes us and leads us to a point of no return. It is an invitation to honest and guilt-free self-analysis, to bravely ask oneself, am I acting like a predator focused on my prey, to the point of neglecting my entire personal ecosystem, which includes health, family, friends, diverse passions, and my own sense of purpose? Or am I cultivating a rich and diverse garden, where multiple interests, meaningful relationships, and varied aspirations can flourish harmoniously, creating a full and resilient life? Understanding that obsession, at its deepest root, is an animal instinct for concentration can help us demystify it, to see it not as a moral failing, an inherent weakness, or a condemnation, but as a behavioral pattern that needs to be understood, managed, and, if necessary, transformed through self-knowledge and the pursuit of balance. Human wisdom lies in learning from the praying mantis to be precise, determined and persistent in our goals, but also to recognize when it is time to expand our vision, to release the prey if it is consuming us, and to allow life to offer us other paths, other possibilities, and other forms of fulfillment that perhaps we would never have considered. This leads us to a deeper and more compassionate self-knowledge, where we can balance passion and focus with flexibility, adaptability, resilience, and a holistic perception of the whole. It is the pursuit of a life where determination does not become imprisonment, and where the mind, instead of a dark and restrictive tunnel, becomes a vast horizon of infinite possibilities.